to another episode of the DailyFlip podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we come with breaking news, or at least when I'm recording it. The Senate has apparently put forward a bill that they can agree upon across the party lines in order to bring an end to the shutdown. Temporary, but still an end nonetheless. And there are still caveats, which we will go into, but it seems that we're on the right track if you want the government to open. With that said, we're going to jump into our daily debate. Do you think the House will be able to pull the votes together in order to get this passed? Even if all the Republicans don't jump on board, at least half of them probably would be willing to. I think that's a fair approximation. And could we get enough Democrats? Some are saying that without ACA subsidies, they would not be willing to do so. And some people like Tim Kaine said that was one of his focuses going into making this deal and negotiating. So we'll see how it pans out. We'll see what the conversation around it is tomorrow. But with that, let's actually jump into the article. It comes from Politico. Headline reads, U.S. Senate reaches deal on ending the shutdown. And I was actually watching the game with somebody, the Redskins game, and they said to me that, well, it looks like Donald Trump, Mr. President, is having a good time in that box, and then you see Mike Johnson over his shoulder, and we joked, maybe they're doing some negotiating about the shutdown without necessarily calling an official meeting. And a few hours later, guess what's posted by Politico? The fact that, there might actually be something in the works. Quote, the Senate is posed to vote later Sunday night to advance the House pass stopgap, which will later become the vehicle for the larger funding deal. It still needs to pass the House before the government can be reopened. The breakthrough follows weeks of closed-door negotiations, not only among a bipartisan group of rank-and-file senators, but also Thune and, according to one of the people granted anonymity to share private conversations, President Donald Trump. And they go on to say, quote, the Department of Agriculture and the FDA, the Department of Veteran Affairs and Military Construction Projects, and the operation of Congress for the full fiscal year, that's what they're saying will be a part of this project, quote, the product of months of bipartisan bicameral negotiations between top negotiators. But there's always a wrinkle, and they can't just be straightforward. What are the Democrats getting out of this? What do they need, in this case, to take back to their base and say, hey, we actually got something for you? And what hardline positions can the Republicans say, hey, we are trying to open this back up for American people, but we don't want to add too much spending. We don't want to cave too much. We don't want to give away the squeeze. We don't want to give away the juice without making sure that the squeeze is a little bit lighter and not necessarily full of a whole bunch of pulp that they don't want to go along with it. I think that analogy fell apart, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. Quote, as part of Democrats' agreement to end the shutdown, Thune is promising Senate Democrats a vote in mid-December to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies that are due to expire at the end of the year without congressional action, end quote. Is that actually going to go anywhere? No, it's not. I don't think the Republicans are going to be, what's the word I'm looking for here, scared into this position. I understand why the Democrats think this is an extremely powerful mode to get their point across. I get why they believe that they can turn the argument against Republicans, because it sounds as though we are actively walking towards the edge of a crisis, and the Republicans, if they don't vote in order to keep the funding going, are effectively pushing people over the edge. They're pushing the country over the edge. I get why Democrats think that is a potent message. And yet, the Republicans are ideologically opposed to the ACA and healthcare. And all they really want to do is get away from this issue right now and stop letting it be the center. And when it's part of the shutdown, and it's the reason they're not moving, that allows it to be a completely central part of the Democrats' argument versus having a vote on it that will be pungent moving into midterm elections because they can run attack ads on it, but it will be fading in comparison to a news story that returns every single day at the top banner of every single news agency, which is the government shut down one more day. Republicans will not move on this issue. And should they? It's a different question. Then will they? Though I think the Democrats are making a pretty bad trade here. If I'm to speculate and I'm to say that I'm a Democratic strategist and I'm sitting in the back room, I would be saying something to the effect of, don't move on this. Make sure we keep it in focus as long as possible. And you can make the argument that, well, a principled Democrat would say, we made these arguments before. We need the government to be open. Guess what? They're not thinking that way. Just like the Republicans have flipped on their position, they're not thinking that way. They're thinking about the political moment. And as much as people blame the Democrats and the Republicans, more people blame the Republicans. It's actually strategically beneficial, politically beneficial for the Democrats to continue having this as an issue, to make it resonate in people's minds, which is ironic because only the truly politically in touch care about these sort of things. There are people that are understanding this in passing, they're getting their information in passing, and they're angry about it, but the people that actually care about it, that notice the differences, are of two different segments. The ones that are in Washington, the politicos, the ones working in the government, and the people directly affected by the benefits. The people that are directly affected by the benefits, they will vote for the party that advocates for keeping those benefits. And the Republicans have started to move that way underneath Donald Trump. There's no doubt about that. But everybody knows that the Democrats are a more sure bet in order to keep those benefits flowing, at least in the path that it's taken over the last few years. So they're not actually gaining anybody or losing anybody by continuing this battle, because they're fighting for it, and they historically have been the ones to get those benefits for their voters. Then again, you can make an argument that they can't come through for their voters, but guess what? Even if they can't come through in this specific instance and win the battle and make sure they get the ACA credits back and make sure healthcare is cheaper because of this battle they took up to keep the government closed, they're still the better bet to re-enshrine it when the next Congress comes in. So I don't think they actually lose anything on that front. And the politicos that are very involved in D.C. tend to be Democratic anyway. So the people that really care and they see the effects of the shutdown, I don't think the Democrats actually lose them by continually fighting for them, or at least advocating, claiming that they're fighting for them. And the other part here is the people who don't care. They hear about the shutdown in the background and then they keep going about their lives. Those people feel probably a little bit more middle class, some on the lower side, the working people who don't have time to watch the media. There's just a possible inverse argument here that the longer the shutdown goes on, people realize less and less how much, or more and more specifically, how they do not need the government to be involved in their lives, which could be not beneficial, possibly harmful to the Democratic Party, because they are the party that advocates for more government involvement. There's only a few people that will find exception to that, which are those that work in different locations across the United States that have to travel there via plane or other public transport. Those segments of the population are pretty small, and that's not to say it's minuscule. It's not to say during travel season that more people don't go, but I think the max you would reach is maybe 30% of the U.S. population traveling, and I don't know if that's accurate. I think the actual number is somewhere around 25, but a lot of people can't afford to. So once again, it's kind of a luxury argument. It's a luxury position when they say, oh, well, the planes are going to be shut down. Guess what? So many people drive to their family members. They have to drive to their family members because they can't afford for you and the entire family to pack up on a plane. So the average person's probably not feeling it. And that also lends itself to the Democrats, because guess what? The little that they know, all they have to do is say, oh, there's a government shutdown. Who is the party in power? Who's sitting there at the top? Who has the little plaque on the desk that says the buck stops here? Trump doesn't actually have that plaque, but in everybody's mind, it is a joke. It is a stereotype, and it is embedded into what the leader of this nation would be. With the title of president comes bearing the responsibility and the blame for a lot of political issues, especially for those who are not fully aware. So I think that while this break may come and Democrats may be able to tout it as a win for standing up for what they believe in, getting the Republicans to cave, I also don't think it hurts them to keep this going. And I think we'll see how it plays out. Of course, I don't think we'll see. I know we will see how it plays out. Though I wouldn't be surprised if there's a last-minute change of heart in the House itself, but maybe I'm wrong. So, with all that said, if you want to read today's article, it'll be linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Podcast, Podmine, as well as the Twitter handle at your DailyFlip, where I post the links to these episodes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the international news segment that we do on Tuesday and Thursday called 6 and 6. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.